My name is Mary Bell Nyman. I'm from Psychic Horizon Center, and it's nice to have you. Settle on back in your chairs or wherever you're sitting. Take that deep breath. And we're going to start by grounding, putting a little attention on the very base of your spine and letting it connect to the very center of the earth. And those 2 points are going to be connected by energy. And you can use a redwood tree, a beam of light, an anchor and chain, whatever works for you. Energy isn't fussy. And it's just like putting down an electric cord and plugging it into the center of the earth. Those 2 points ground you or connect you to the planet. And then take a couple of deep breaths. Just kind of turning off the world around you and letting your attention go inward. Just focusing on you. When you ground, you as the spirit come into the body a lot more. You bring your spirit awareness to the physical body, and it helps the body make decisions, be clearer, more aware. So grounding is probably the #1 thing you can maintain in order to have a great life. The body runs on automatic. We'll do one on first chakra survival energy later. But the body kind of is like a program to go on automatic. And when something throws that program off, you get divorced, you have a baby, whatever it is, then you go into what we would call a growth period, a huge shift, and the body can't function in the same way it used to. Kind of like if you're a mom and you just have a baby, the only thing you can think about is that baby for at least a couple weeks. So anything that doesn't have to do with that little one isn't in your awareness. You're just going on automatic, just trying to get through that challenge of being with a new person every 3 hours that needs you. So the spirit brings all the data, all the awareness that you've gathered from lifetimes and uses it in the body. And so when you ground, all that awareness comes front and center to the body, and you have more ability to make choices and make better decisions. We've all had that experience where we drive and we get off at an exit and you go, wow, don't even remember taking the exit, and yet here I am at home. You're kind of on automatic pilot, but you're not nearly as aware as you would usually be. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight are mental image pictures. When you look at like a concept, you have a concept and you want to change it. If you look at some of the concepts you grew up with and what affects you now, sometimes we'll talk about there's a matching picture or a energy that you get stuck on, and you can shift it. And so being able to think of how you use tools or how you make an adjustment to change that awareness is where we're going to play tonight. And we're going to play with some games in here. So if you haven't done a lot of energy work, just fake it. Fake it till you make it. It doesn't matter. We're just going to get curious and do a little playing. So the first chakra is right at the very base of the spine, kind of where your bottom meets the chair. And that deals with the survival energy I was talking about. And if you look there at that first chakra and then at the grounding cord, that energy connection, you'll see different colors of like little confetti that float in that area. And that confetti looking stuff is our pictures. And again, a picture is just a mental image. It's just a concept. Kind of like, I had a good one earlier. I've forgotten it, but having to be good all the time is a concept we were all raised with. And so you can look at that and say, hey, that doesn't give me my total freedom. Sometimes I want to be a little naughty. And so you move with that picture back and forth. That's probably not a great example, but there you go. So when we look at these mental image pictures, we're going to find a history attached to them. So I'd like you to just close your eyes, kind of settle back inside yourself, and find one of those little confetti dots, one of the colors. And just imagine picking it up. And with your eyes closed, we're going to kind of explore what this picture is. And if you could open that picture up, kind of like a fortune cookie, just kind of find yourself in that picture. And notice what age you are. You might have a little timeline next to that picture. Are you with someone? Are you by yourself? Is there a certain emotion attached to it? What are you saying or doing? And just get curious. You might see nothing, you might get a lot of information. But we're just playing with it. And get a sense of that, the whole feeling of that picture, that little confetti. And then if you would imagine a huge soap bubble out in front of you, maybe the size of a basketball, and just let that feeling, that emotion, that picture go into that bubble. And you can pop it and just release any energy that lingers in that picture. And this kind of lets you come into present time with that situation. One of the ones I saw was one of me holding my mom's hand when I was like 2 years old. And it was a feeling for me of uncertainty. There was a lot of busyness around us, and I wasn't sure how to proceed. And so that's a picture from 2 years old. Do I still need that in my awareness? Not necessarily. I wouldn't release a concept like look both ways before you cross the street, because that's a good one. We still like to be alive and not flat as a pancake. So you can kind of play with the concepts that are in a picture and see if you want to keep it or if you want to let it go. But do I need to keep a feeling of uncertainty? No. I know how to handle myself in busy situations. So that's an old concept I can let go that lets me come even more into the moment, kind of as an example. So if you would, pick another piece of that confetti, just looking down and finding a color. And again, we're just playing with it. If you saw absolutely nothing, would you let that be okay? And so when you look at this concept, this color, just ask yourself, if I was going to see something, what would it be? Is there a certain picture in this piece of confetti? What does this color represent? And just exploring it. How old are you? What is the situation, the feeling? Just giving yourself a little bit of space to look and see what's happening. And this time, put that bubble out in front of you again and put a little magnet in it. And let it draw out any of that same energy that might be in your space that matches that confetti piece. So for me, on that first picture, uncertainty. Any place I have uncertainty, that can draw that same energy out. And so using that magnet to attract the energy from that confetti picture into that bubble and then popping it. And take a deep breath. When someone does a psychic reading, the reader gets to look at some of these matching concepts or matching pictures. And the readee gets some great information. Hey, they get to learn a little bit more, they get to be seen, and the reader gets to release anything that matches. So any place you're holding uncertainty, if you're the reader, you start to get rid of all that energy just automatically. And that's a great win-win. Both people get a great healing. So it's one of the reasons that we read. And in many ways, the reading is more for the reader because they get to really heal themselves. And this happens all the time in everyday life. And women are especially good at matching energy. We tend to match to communicate. Men have a different vibration and they don't need to match in order to communicate. They don't communicate at the same frequency. So women will find a lot of matching pictures. I'll give you an example. Like women, a woman might come up to one of her friends and say, I went shopping. And the other woman's going to respond, oh, what did you get? What did you buy? It was red shoes. And she's holding this image in front of her of red shoes. And it's like, whoa, you know, and that other person matches that energy or that excitement of finding a purchase that really makes your day. Where a man might say, oh, okay, red shoes. It's not the same frequency. And so it can be more validating when women, they keep kind of bringing the energy up higher and higher when they're with each other. Where men will go literally, oh, okay, red shoes. Enough said. But women were like, oh no, he didn't get it. I need to tell him more. They were like, red shoes. And so again, there's more of a frequency. Let me put more energy in it. Maybe he'll get it then. And that isn't negative or positive. It's just a miracle that sometimes we can communicate as well as we do because we see it from two different sides. And so it's just great when you can have that level of connection and recognize that, hey, we each have different ways of communicating. And, you know, women get kind of like chickens where our energy gets higher and higher and higher in how we match and communicate. And that's why God made caves or garages so that men can stay sane, because sometimes our intensity can blow them out of the water, and not in a negative way. We just communicate two different ways. So kind of fun to see. And in this instant matching is kind of where some of these concepts get validated. So look at that bubble out in front of you that had to do with that second confetti picture, and just notice for yourself what emotion comes out when you look at that concept. And just let it fill that bubble and pop it. No effort. The thing I love about bubbles is, if you remember kids' soap bubbles where you catch one on the wand, and there's such a small boundary, but it is there. So you can easily imagine popping it. And it's clear so you can see through it. So when you allow energy to be contained inside of it, it might change the color of the bubble to a blue or a red or whatever it is. So you can now distinguish it isn't clear anymore. There's an energy form in it. And that energy form has a certain color or frequency. And if you see absolutely nothing, let that be okay too. Sometimes we know things, but we don't see them. And both ways work. One isn't more psychic or aware than the other. So just allow however your body's experiencing that to be okay. And take a deep breath. And what creates a picture is sometimes a resistance to it. I'll give you an example. My dad's parents were in the Great Depression. So for him, money was extremely, they grew up very poor during the Great Depression. They lost a lot of things. And so he had that concept kind of drilled in him. You don't waste anything. You only spend so much money. And so one time he was out visiting me and we were shopping and I was going to buy a red pepper. And he says, "Oh, you can't buy those." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Those are $2.79 a pound. I can't afford those." And he was a doctor. But that was his concept. They were out of his league, what he was willing to spend. And I had a little Shih Tzu who pretty much ate a lot of vegetables, and it was for the Shih Tzu. So he was what I would call stuck on a picture. He retained that concept even though that was in his teens. And here it was many years later but he was still stuck on that picture. He would agonize if he had to wipe a spill up, whether to use a Kleenex or a paper towel. I don't know why he didn't go for sponges, but still. He had to agonize which one would be more economical because his reality had been so programmed into him to not waste anything. And hey, it's not a bad reality. I think we waste way too many things, but still, it drove him where it wasn't a choice he easily made. He was stuck in a concept that wasn't even his, but more a product of the times where he was when he grew up. So it's interesting. We can get stuck in a concept that no longer or quit serving us. And usually there's a resistance there, a fear. And so it's a great thing to learn how to let go of pictures because they can drive your reality. So take a deep breath. Just have a little fun, letting things go. And think of something in your life that you tend to get stuck in. It could be dating the same kind of person. It could be a concept that you're not comfortable with. But just pick something that you'd like to experiment with tonight and just have fun playing with, getting a little bit more understanding of. Maybe it's something that brings up anxiety in you or anger, fear. And there's usually some kind of a concept or an event that triggers that, where it puts you back into an emotion that isn't necessarily comfortable to the body. And again, we're just getting curious. You're just looking around, seeing what you see. And then again, you can use that soap bubble. You can take that concept and put it down your grounding cord. But just letting yourself have some energy tools that help you release that concept. And recognize there's no wrong or right in keeping a concept. In some ways, that programming worked well for my dad. In other ways, it really held him back. None of it killed him, but he fought it. There was a resistance in it. So anything that keeps you bound in an uncomfortable place is something you can let go of. Now you can imagine when kids sit and blow bubbles, they blow about 10 at a time once they get good at it. So give yourself that same permission. Just blow a few bubbles. You don't even have to know what they represent. And let any energy hanging around just hop in those bubbles and pop them. And then when we let go of energy, it's always great to fill in with energy. So create that huge gold sun above your head, twice as big as the body. And again, a gold sun is just an energy tool. And just fill it full of validation for you, for what you want to create, for enjoying the life you have, for just getting curious and playing on a Saturday night, looking at concepts that maybe you've outgrown. And being able to heal yourself. As you put that validation in that gold sun, you can think of at least 2 or 3 other things you'd like to have. Might be more peace inside, more laughter, more chocolate, up to you. And then imagine popping that gold sun and letting it flow inside the body, filling you up from head to toe. And it'll fill the physical body up first, and then go out into the aura and the energy parts of you. And see how that feels. You can stretch, come out of that light trance you were in when you had your eyes shut, wiggle around. Let's come back to you. Woohoo! And you get rid of energy just by being. So some of it, you don't even have to worry about what it is. Anything you're ready to let go of will just naturally start to come out and be released. It's kind of fun. One of the things that happens to a psychic is you have 360 degrees of awareness around your head. And when you're focusing in, like when we picked one of those confetti pictures, you're focusing in all your awareness on that one picture and looking at what reality did you create in that picture. And that's a tremendous ability to focus 360 degrees into one little tiny part and then read what that is. So many times in a reading, a student will have an idea of what the match is, what the matching energy is. Other times you have no clue because there's so many different variations that come off of it. But it's tremendous to be able to focus in like that. And we do it all the time. Being psychic or reading energy isn't that hard. It's interpreting it that's the tricky part. The finesse comes in being able to figure out, what a certain image interprets as. So, but seeing is really easy. If you think of how many times you've been in an airport or a restaurant and you looked across and your mind just started to make up this little story about what those two people were doing or what this relationship was about. And we do that all the time. And many times, I think if we walked up and asked them, we might be, 80, 90% correct, because energy has its own signature. And so it's interesting to interpret energy and see what you get. One of the things that's really fun too, as you become a reader, is you start to find a place of neutrality where you can look at an experience and not judge it, but just get curious about it. And so that level of neutrality is kind of like being in a peaceful zone where you're not pulled to the left, you're not pulled to the right, you're sitting right dead center and you can see both sides. So that gives you a really unique position because it lets you be neutral to whatever the situation is presenting. And sometimes if someone is in a tricky situation, it's really great to be able to be neutral because then you can be of more assistance. Where if somebody gets pulled into the same drama that you're in, it's really hard because you're in the same frequency. So again, when you pull back, you can have much more awareness of how to actually help that person when you can find that place of neutrality. So let's go there. What the heck? It's a Saturday night. So take a deep breath and let yourself sit back. And again, we're just going to play a little psychic game. And just let yourself find an energy of neutrality, just where you're neutral. You've got nothing invested in either side. And let yourself just see what color or what feeling you get when you get in neutrality. We're just finding what energy or what color comes when we get in neutral. And then find a situation where you haven't been neutral. Maybe you got pulled right in that problem with somebody else. And just notice neutrality moves away from us and into that problem, and we start to become it. Where when you're neutral, you can allow the healing around you to happen. So when someone asks for help, if you can find that place of peace within where you can see both sides, hey, if you go left, this will happen. If you go right, that'll happen. Your choice, what feels best to you. Then you can be of more assistance. I love this when someone comes and says, okay, I can't decide whether to take job A or job B. And so I'm not going to make the decision for them. It's their life. But I can read the energy. If you take job A, this is what you'll learn. And this is the kind of experience that comes with that. And if you take job B, this is the energy that you'll work with. And so then it lets them have a bigger picture and they can make their own choice. And that's so much better to me, being able to give them an idea of the two different energies, but letting them pick, because it's their life, it's their future. And that really serves them. I don't think we can live somebody else's life. So it's nice to be able to help them, but not pick which one they should take. And again, when we're in that neutrality, it's easier to stay neutral and not get programmed into what's the event is happening, especially if there's a conflict between people. It's never one-sided, never, never, never. There's always something going on both sides. So it's nice to be able to sit in neutral and try and help them figure out what is their part in it. And that always helps too. When we put our attention or energy into a problem or a person, then we lose some of that neutrality. If someone's afraid of losing their job, they're afraid they're not going to have enough money, that can be a place where they get stuck in fear. If you match, then you start to go down that path with them. So it gives you more space, again, when you can have that freedom, when you're in neutral. So take a deep breath and come back to that place of neutrality. And just make some room for yourself to have some compassion in that neutrality, some non-judgment. So creating a nice neutral space for yourself and just seeing what would that feel like. Just letting yourself be there. To me, there's always a little bit of amusement in neutrality, because amusement's great at deflecting resistance or fear. You can be just a tiny bit mildly amused, especially when it's not funny. It gives you that flexibility. When we're in resistance, it's a very sticky energy. So again, we're just playing with some energy tools tonight and just see what you discover. And then again, look inside your own life, inside your own bubble. And maybe what's something you've been struggling with for a while? Just some challenge you've had. Nobody's going to know but you. You're just playing. And put up a bubble for that challenge and just see what colors are there, what energy. And bring this neutrality to that struggle. It's like, okay, I have done it this other way my whole life. It hasn't worked. So let me try just being neutral to it. And notice if there's something you're afraid of losing. Are you afraid of losing anything with this particular struggle you're working on? Are you afraid something might be taken from you? And as a spirit, you can kind of shine your light on that issue and bring your neutrality and just get curious. Say you have anxiety about a certain situation. It's like, to me, sitting it down next to you and saying, okay, what are you teaching me? What am I learning by going through this anxiety? What is this about? What's underneath it? So just giving yourself some room to play. Just seeing what you discover. And again, have some compassion for yourself. See if you can be non-judgmental about that particular issue you've been working on. Give yourself a break and take out any judgment energy, any blaming. Oh, if I'd done this or if I'd done that. Just letting it go. And again, getting curious, getting neutral. And see if it's easier to start to look at another solution for whatever issue you've been struggling with. And you can put a grounding cord on that energy. You can take a vacuum cleaner and suck the heaviness out of it. Any kind of energy tool that works for you. And know that nothing can be taken away from you. You have your own ability to let things go, but you're not going to lose anything. Sometimes you can close the lower chakras so that you're not as emotionally attached to whatever the issue is. And then it's easier to bring your spirit awareness in to solve that problem. And in a perfect world, how would you solve it? And you might think of 3 or 4 things you could do. So anytime you're struggling with something, really sitting down and looking at it, and it's kind of like from all sides of the table. If you made a circle around that issue and looked at it from all sides, what could you learn about it? Why do you think you might have attracted it? And that's where neutrality really helps. It's like, oh, I can see where I can learn from this. So instead of blaming or judging, you really get curious and you can find so many answers. Kind of like every once in a while, you'll run into a person and they quote, light you up. It's like, I just don't like that person. And it's like, oh, what is that? What is that inside? It's great to get curious. As a center director, I meet hundreds of people. And so every once in a while, boy, somebody will get on your nerves and you're like, oh, what is that? I want to get to know this person because there's something in me that's in resistance. I want to find that answer. Because most people are really great. They're easy to be with. So it's interesting. If I get triggered, I really am curious. What is that issue that's being poked inside me? Where is their pain that that person triggers? Because as I find that, then I'm free. I have my freedom to have that person as a friend. There's some people we're going to hang with more than others. But if you can find what is it that puts that burr in your bonnet, then you're really on your way to finding a lot of freedom. So next time, let yourself get curious and play with it instead of being in resistance, being in fear that somehow that person is going to take something from you. And again, this is the fun part of being and playing in the psychic world, is having more of an awareness of what triggers you and being able to heal yourself, to work on it and find your freedom. There's a great quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it's like, do you want to be right, or do you want to have your freedom? And I like that, Because sometimes we have to let go of having it be perfect in order to just be with it. So take another deep breath. And anything that's been lighting up for you, that issue we talked about, let it all float down your grounding cord. Just take a deep breath and release it. Nice deep breath again. Just giving yourself a little bit more space to be you, to not have to be perfect. To just let go. All of us are mirrors for each other. And sometimes when you draw a certain kind of person around you, then you got to say, oh, what is it in me that attracts that? It's a great level of awareness. And sometimes it can be a concept that came from way when you were a kid that no longer serves you. And that's just what we've been working on tonight. So if you only pick men that are emotionally unavailable, you have to look at that in yourself and say, what is it that I keep picking that same pattern? Same with the men. If you only pick women who take from you and never give back, hey, that's a great pattern to release so that you can have a partner where it's equal. You really have fun taking care of each other, or nurturing each other. You don't have to fix each other. You can really enjoy each other. And that's a whole different kind of relationship. And as you gain more of that ability to be neutral, you can go into really great depth with what triggers you and release it. And you find you don't get triggered in that same way. And that's the biggest reason people read, is to release that inner pain. So take a deep breath, and we're going to play one more psychic game. I want you to just imagine that aura bubble around you. And you can think of taking a bath sponge, your favorite scent, your favorite color, and just starting to clear out the inside of that bubble. Any pictures or concepts that are sitting there that we've looked at tonight. I like to put color, so as I wipe the inside of my aura, I can see where I've been. And you just go all the way around yourself. And you'll notice it's kind of hard to reach the back of your aura. So you can imagine someone helping you clean it out. Or you can put handles on the front and swing it around halfway. And just give yourself permission to clean it out. And to find a color that really sustains you. Just seeing that whole bubble become shiny and full of that color that you like. And then once again, we're going to create that huge gold sun, twice as big as your body. Set it on your head and decide, what would you like to give to yourself tonight? What do you need more of in your life? More time, more joy. Whatever it is for you. If you could have anything, what would you pick? Everything you've created starts with this level of imagining something, and then you create it, you draw it to you. So really think, what do you want for a next step? And then one more time, pop that gold sun and let it totally fill up every cell in your body with that vibration. Filling up the physical body and then letting it go out into the aura around yourself. And send an I love you to your body. Just knowing that this energy that you just created will come back to you. And validating that, making more room for it. Everything you came to do is in that your heart chakra, like little seeds. And as you clear out things that you no longer serve you, you make room for those new things to pop up and start to grow. So tonight, whether you knew it or not, you let go of a lot of old concepts, didn't even really have to know what they were, and you made some new room. And that's how you start to attract your reality. So really validate yourself. It takes a lot of courage sometimes to look at those things that don't serve us, but it's a great trade. Old pain or a trip to Paris? Which one would you rather have? So when you can release the old pain, then you make room for a trip to Paris, a new car, a new kitty, whatever it is you've been longing for. So congratulations, you're well on your way. Again, stretch, come out of that light trance you've been in. Woohoo! Not bad for a Saturday night.